Well, hello there, algebra students. I'm so glad that you're back. This is Mr. Von Ah with another video for you on how to solve quadratic equations. In the last video, we learned how to solve quadratic equations when there is no c. Now we're going to learn how to solve quadratic equations when we do have a c. In other words, there's another number, a constant there at the end of our left side of our equation. Okay? So, and this is still the same process. So this is really nothing new. Everything that we're going to do in this video, we've already learned. We're just going to put it all together. Okay? So we have an example here. I have y squared minus 5y plus 6 equals 6y equals 18. Equals 6y minus 18. All right, so go ahead and pause the video and ask yourself two questions. Is this a quadratic equation? And two, is it in standard form? Okay? All right, so the first question was, is it a quadratic equation? Well, the definition of a quadratic equation is it's a second degree equation. Yep, that's a second degree equation with one variable. Does this have one variable? It's got a y here, and a y. I got a y in 3 different places, but I still only have a y. I don't have an x, I don't have a w. I only have one variable here. So this is a quadratic equation. And by the way, the variable does not have to be x. It usually is, but it doesn't have to be. It could be any letter. And that's kind of why I put the y in here, just so you get used to that. All right, so the second question was, is it in standard form? Well, standard form has got to be in descending order, so that's correct, and it's got to be equal to 0, and a has got to be positive. So this is not standard form because I have 6y minus 18. That's supposed to be 0. So I need to do something. Step 1, remember, was make sure it's in standard form. Okay, so how do I put this in standard form? Well, I want this whole thing to be 0. So that means, well, if I have a 6y, how do I get rid of the 6y? How about I just subtract 6y? And now that's gone, isn't it? But if I do it to the right side, I have to do it to the left side. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to line it up with the other y. See how this is a y? I know it's got to be lined up with its like term. So I'm going to line it up with this negative 5y. So it's going to be minus 6y. I subtracted 6y here. I got to subtract 6y here. Okay, now how about this minus 18? How could I get rid of a minus 18? What's the inverse of minus 18? You got it. You know what? I'm going to use a different color. Just add 18. So look at that. Negative 18 plus 18 is 0. That's what I want. But I have to do it to the same over here. I'm going to put it with the 6 because these are like terms. That's going to cancel. And look what I have on the right side. This is a 0 and this is a 0. What's 0 minus 0? 0. Which is what I want. It's got to be equal to 0. All right, so let's go ahead and do all this and get it cleaned up, shall we? So y squared, he doesn't have any like terms, so we're just going to bring him down. Looks like my pen is drying up. And then negative 5y minus 6y. Well, these are both negative, so they're going to work together, aren't they? So they're going to add up to give me negative 11. Negative 11y. Then I got 6 plus 18. That's what, 24? Plus 24. And that's all going to be equal to 0. Now that's in standard form. And I'm done with step 1. So oftentimes, probably usually, it's already going to be in standard form. But there are those cases, and I wanted you to be prepared for those cases where you've got to put it in standard form. All right, secondly, we've got to factor this. I have a trinomial here, don't I? Have we learned how to factor trinomials? think so. If you go back to Unit 4, Lesson 4, we learned how to do this. So we want to set this up. I like to use the AC method, or I call it the X method. Okay, so I'm going to set up an X here. I'm going to put it over here, kind of out of the way. All right, so remember here I need to put AC, and here I need to put B. So what are my ABCs? A, B, C. Remember this? Well, A is 1. B is negative 11. And C is 24. Okay, now I know my ABCs. Now I can do this. I can do the AC method. All right, so what's A times C? Well, 1 times 24 is 24. And B is just simply negative 11. All right, now I need to find two numbers that will multiply to give me 24 and add or subtract to give me negative 11. All right, so let's think of some numbers that multiply to give me 24. Well, we have 24 times 1, right? We can also do, give me some other ones. Well, that's an even number, so I can do 2. 12 times 2. Is there others? Let's see, 11, no, 10, no, 9, no, 8. 8 times 3 is 24. And there's another one. 6 times 4 is 24. So all of these are factors of 24, but only one set will add or subtract to give me negative 11. Which one is it? Pause the video and see if you can choose which of these 4 sets is the correct set. Okay, let's take a look. Well, 24 minus 1 is 23. That's not going to get me there, right? Okay, 12 minus 2 is 10, and 12 plus 2 is 14. That's not going to work. Okay, 8 plus 3 is 11. Oh. 6 plus 4 is 10. So that won't work. The only one that has a chance of working is 8 and 3. Let me fix that up for you. 8 and 3. Okay, so 8 times 3 is 24. But 8 plus 3 is a positive 11. And I need a negative 11. How can I get a negative 11? Well, you have to understand there's 2 ways of getting a positive number by multiplying. I can multiply 2 positives, or I can multiply 2 negatives, right? So if I turn both of these negative, negative 8 times negative 3 is positive 24, right? And negative 8 plus a negative 3 is negative 11. So bingo, those are my 2 factors. Okay, and by the way, I didn't mention this, but there was no greatest common factor here. If there was, I would have had to pull that out first. Okay, so let's set this up in factored form. And don't forget to put the equals 0. This is an equation. Okay, so I got y minus 8. And I got y minus 3. Again, you could have put y minus 3 and y minus 8 on that side. It doesn't matter. Okay. Now, I've factored it. Now I move to principle of zero products. Principle of zero products, if you remember, is if I have 2 numbers multiplied together and the result is 0, that means that one of the 2 numbers has to be 0. Okay, do I have 2 numbers multiplied together equaling 0? It might not look like it, but actually I do. Right? If you remember, this is kind of like my A, and this whole term, y minus 3, is like my B. So I have A times B equals 0. Okay, so what they're telling me to do is if I have a times b equals 0, that means an a has to equal 0. Okay, well let's go ahead and set y minus 8 equal to 0. So y minus 8 equal to 0. Or b has to be 0. What's b? Well, this whole thing, y minus 3. Y minus 3. I just lose the parentheses at this point. It makes it a lot easier. You don't really need them anymore. Okay, so now I have my two equations set up. Now I can solve these using my linear equation solving skills. Okay, so y minus 8 equals 0. I need to solve for y. That means I need to get rid of that minus 8. The inverse of minus 8 is plus 8. So I add 8 to both sides. Be careful. A lot of times students will get in a rush and they'll just say y equals negative 8. Be careful. Don't take shortcuts. Okay, so that cancels, so I get y equals 0 plus 8 is 8. Okay, that will work. And you can check it. If you want to check it, you can plug it in. You can substitute it in either to the original equation or to this equation here that we've set in standard form. Okay, so y equals 8, or, okay, y minus 3 equals 0. How do I get rid of a minus 3? I just simply add 3. All right, just got to make sure you do it to both sides. So I got y equals 0 plus 3 is 3. So again, I have two solutions. Both of these values will make this equation true. And again, what do these equations mean? Or what do these solutions mean? Well, let me just draw a little sketch here. Let me do this. This is the negative side of x. So this is the y-axis. And this is the x-axis. Okay, so y equals 8. So that'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Or y equals 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now, little thing here. Just because it says y, those are not asking for the y-intercepts. They're still asking you what... They're still saying, this is still saying that these are the values on the x-axis. Even, this could be a equals 3, b, c, d. It could be any letter. Regardless of the letter, they're always talking about, if you're solving a quadratic equation, it's always talking about points on the x-axis. All right, so don't let these y's confuse you. Okay, so I got y equals 3, y equals 8, and we have that beautiful parabola, which, you know what, I'm going to make that more beautiful by making it red, huh? Just like that. And you'll notice, if you remember, do you remember what these things are called? Those are called my x-intercepts, or my roots. You'll hear them called both. They are the solutions to my quadratic equations, the x-intercepts. So if you find a problem and say, hey, find the x-intercepts of this quadratic equation, what they're saying is, hey, solve it. If you have a question that says, hey, find the roots of this quadratic equation, they're asking you to solve it. Okay, they're just trying to use different lingo to test your math vocabulary. All right, so that's it. Standard form, factor, principle of zero products. You don't have to graph, at least not yet. I'm just doing this for visual purposes, just to help you understand what the solutions mean. All right, So make sure you subscribe to my channel so you can get notified when new videos are uploaded. And as always, may God richly bless you, my friends.